be home by 8, okay?
Okay. Hello, I'm David. I'm doing my speech to loved one, and my audience members are Gabby Hobson, Marnie Schmidt, and Grace Fomang. It is 6:12 in the night and September 22nd. When someone becomes a memory, and a memory becomes a treasure. Everyday power. Losing a loved one is heartbreaking, tragic, and unthinkable. Heartbreak is usually the first stage when you're dealing with a loss of someone. From personal experience, losing someone is very heartbreaking. My experience heartbreak happened on April 23rd, 2019, when one of my dearest friends committed suicide. With her passing is when I felt one of the worst feelings in the world, heartbreak. Going through heartbreak, it took me a while to get over. My heartbreak period took about at least 2 weeks to get over. It took me everything I had to go to school and think about her all the time, seeing that she's not there. The heartbreak stage is a hard stage to get through, but we all go through it. With every heartbreak stage, there is a tragic stage. Usually after the heartbreak stage, there is a tragic period. This period happens when the energy from the shock of the heartbreak comes down. For me, this is when it happened after the funeral. I realized she was actually gone from my life, and I would never get to see her again. I learned how to keep my composure during this period of time by doing some meditation skills with Ms. Schmidt and some self-positivity with myself. I also got awakened to how many people were actually truly in my life and was going through this phase with me. That is the best and worst part of the tragic phase. You'll realize who is actually a part of you and who isn't. Who would actually be beside you and comfort you, and who's just willing to turn your back on you during your darkest times. For me, I lucked out with having all my friends coming and supporting me through my tough time. If you aren't lucky, remember, there is always someone willing out there to help you, and someone willing to touch your life. The tragic period is usually the recovery period. The unthinkable period is one of the saddest periods of all. The unthinkable stage is a sad stage because this is when you forget about the tragedy. People usually remember the tragedy for a long time, but at one point you'll wake up and not think about the tragedy. You'll wake up, go on with your normal day, without thinking about what the tragedy was. For most people, they say, move on and forget about the tragedy. And they say, that is a good thing. I disagree with that type of thinking. I agree with moving on, but never forgetting about the tragedy. I ran across this when my girlfriend took me to her church, the same church my best friend's funeral was in place. I couldn't look at the church, or barely go into it, but she says, you have to move on and forget about the tragedy. I feel that is how people get lost in time, I feel like, though, is how people forget the unthinkable stage. I feel like the unthinkable stage should be changed into the treasure stage. I believe it should be changed to the treasure stage because the memories you have with the person are now a treasure that you can share with people, not something you can forget about. The unthinkable stage should just be for moving on, not forgetting. Losing a loved one is heartbreak, tragic, and unthinkable. As previously quoted, when someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a power. Everyday power. Losing a loved one is hard, but you will get over the heartbreak, settle down from the tragedy, and remember them as an unforgettable.